Hello there, and welcome to the tour of the Discoverer class Personal Explorer, the 18th vehicle in my Wimpomania line of vehicles, and the first of my fully modular segment ships. My name is Wimpomania, and I'm the Chief Designer, Chief Builder, Chief Architect, and of course, Chief Dumbass behind the segment ships project, I think I'm going to say. Now, just to be clear, thank you very much for interrupting. So just to be clear, the fully modular bit is for my sake. It improves the way I build, or this is how I'm building the segment ships, is modularly. Also, I'm calling these segment ships because they're broken up into segments. This wide bit here is a segment. There's a connector between them and then another wide bit here. Now those of you familiar with my tour videos will know that I also refer to parts of the video as segments. So for clarity, and unless I fuck up, which of course I will, Chief Dumbass, I'm going to refer to parts of the video in these videos for the segment ships as parts and not segments, and then the parts of the ship that I'm referring to segments, I'll refer to them as segments. Okay, so, but again, I'm sure I will forget. Now, before I take you around the Discoverer class, you may have noticed I didn't say update. Now, this is an original, the Discoverer class, Discoverer. However, there is still some original vehicles to show you, so I'm still going to roll the title for the next video part, which is going to be the original ships, plural, because there's actually more than one. And they are over here. So, as usual with all of my... So, technically, this one isn't an update, but it kind of is, but it technically isn't. So, these were built pre 1.0, so before the game was fully released, and as you can see, these are the original segment ships. Now, you might guess that this is a 2 segment, that's a 3 segment, and that's a 4 segment, and you would be close, but actually this is a 1, that's a 2 segment, and that's actually a 3 segment there. Because if we go underneath again, you'll see that although it does have a segment like the new one does, where it goes wider a little bit, the front bit that you might think is a segment actually doesn't go wider, so it therefore isn't. And it's the same with all of these. So this one has 2 and is thin at the front, and this one, so technically this one has 3. And then I decided to make the cockpit as wide as a segment, but it technically isn't a segment itself. But whatever. So, this here is a mining ship. It has mining lasers, and like I said, it's a 1 segment. So the new mining ship, the new fledgling class, is going to actually be a 4 segment ship in the new style. So this freshman is a vehicle transporter. And it was, like I said, 2, although if you count the flatbed pads, 3. So this is now going to become a 5 segment ship. And then this greenhorn is a gunship. And it's actually going to go down 1 and become a 3 segment ship. And I forgot to mention earlier on, so the modular kit that I'm using to build the new ones, I will show you at the end in the other info part of the video up at the construction area if you are interested. But there we go. That's I'm not going to show you any more of those because that's all I need to show you for that particular bit. So there you go. Right, so let's start the tour proper then, starting with the second part, yes, which is going to be its role and its task equipment. So, as I said, its role is a personal explorer, or more accurately, a personal exploratory vessel. And its task then is to allow you to explore and pathfind and maybe transport a couple of vehicles around while you're doing it. Now, it is it could be used as a starter ship. It is relatively low level, and we'll cover this more later on, but it is tier 2, so it is slightly more expensive than... let me open up my thingies here because I can't remember the name. The Pathfinder class. So the Pathfinder is a starter CV, which is still tier unlock level 10, but it is tier 1. So this one is slightly more expensive, but therefore you get slightly more functionality with it. Now, in order to facilitate the tasks of allowing you to explore and carry a few vehicles, it of course has thrusters and a warp drive and a seat to sit in. It also has some living quarters and a place for production and storage. And as you can see, it has 2 big flat top pads as well for carrying HVs or SVs, with a ramp to get up and down at the back. Okay, I think that'll be the end of that part. So the next part is going to be its propulsion, handling and lift capacities. Right, as usual, I'm going to leave it on the floor so we don't have to put up with the noise of the thrusters from it hovering. Starting with its forward propulsion. So she has 4 mediums and 4 smalls in total. As you can see, there's 2 mediums and 2 smalls in the back of each thruster nacelle. Then for braking and reverse, she just has 8 smalls. So the same as the back, except they're all smalls, obviously. For lateral thrust, she has 1 medium thruster up at the front here, and a small one, and then 4 smalls on the sides of the thruster nacelles. For descent thrust, she has 6 smalls. There's 2 on the top of each nacelle, and then 2 at the front here. Oh, should I say this now? I don't know when else I would say it. So, a part of the modularity of this ship, so this is a segment, and that is the cockpit. So the segment ends there, and the cockpit starts there. And in between is what I call a equipment ring, and then this, as you can probably guess with the thrusters on it, is a thruster ring. And with these segment ships, each one will have at least 1 thruster ring behind the cockpit, and they will all have an equipment ring in between the frontmost segment and the thruster rings, you see. And the only reason I mention that, of course, is the thrusters are in a thruster ring. So that was descent. So ascent, lift, we have 6 medium thrusters. There are 2 on the bottom of each nacelle, so 4 in total. There's also 2 at the front here as part of the thruster ring. Now you may have noticed that some are off as well. They're set to the max lift, and the max lift has 4 small thrusters, 2 on each of the nacelles, and also this extra medium thruster here, as in a thruster that is extra, a medium thruster that's extra to the other thrusters, rather than an extra medium, if you see what I mean. Right, okay. And the reason it's off-center here is because there is a large-ish cargo container there, and it's only on the one side of the ship, so it's from there out. And I thought it needed a thruster there for high G worlds, just to keep up whatever's in that cargo box. Okay, so it's mobility then. Yes, I shall do its lift capacities in a minute. So, mobility. Starting with its manoeuvrability, it will accelerate forwards at 54 meters per second squared. It'll accelerate in reverse at 32. It'll accelerate sideways at 30. It'll go downwards at 24 and upwards at 56. But that is with max lift off. So with max lift on, it'll go from 56 ascent to 82. Right, as for its agility, it'll yaw at 37 degrees per second, 28 degrees per second pitch and 57 degrees per second roll. With max lift on, that 27 goes up to 33. Was it 27? Yeah. And then 57 up to 69. Oh, 28 to 33, sorry. So there we go. I'm not going to do another test fly. Sorry. I don't think anyone particularly cares, because no one complains when I don't do them, but it just takes up too much time. Right. As for its lifting capacity, as usual, there is a heads-up display in the cockpit that does outline most of this. So with max lift off, she can operate in up to 5.7 G. With max lift on, she can lift about 3.7 kilotons in 4G. And the vehicle itself weighs 1.78 kilotons. Okie dokie, that'll be the end of that part. So the next part is going to be its power, fuel and air. Okay, as usual with my tours, I'm going to tell you about this stuff now and then show you where it all is later on when we get to the interior layout. Power, she comes with 6 small power generators. She comes with 8 medium, also known as Tier 2 fuel tanks, and a pentaxid tank. She comes with 8 small O2 tanks, 5 ventilators, 2 O2 stations, and she's fully compartmentalized. Right, that'll be the end of that part. So the next part is going to be its weapons, defenses, and construction. Right, this is going to be a relatively quick part of the video. Seems weird saying part instead of segment, but never mind. So, weapons. She's very, very lightly armed. She only has 2 sentry turrets. They are set to what I consider to be my point defense configuration. So they will target the weapons of small vessels and also ground troops, but excluding predators and drones. Drones and ground troops excluding predators is probably the better way to say that. So defenses, she doesn't come with a shield. She does have a small amount of armor. So the core is in the tail here, underneath the slope. And surrounding the core is hardened steel. There's 1 block on each side, each of the 6 sides. And then surrounding those are just normal steel. And then that's it for armor. Now, as for construction, I have been doing an unpainted version so you can see how it's made. Now, because how ships are normally made, but because of the way I'm building these segment ships with pre-painted and completed modules, I can't do that without taking 20-30 minutes with a paint tool, removing every single texture on every single part that the ship is made from. So, you'll just have to take my word for it. The ship has a hardened steel structural frame. We can at least use the tool to show you where the hardened steel is. So it goes under there. It's basically that layer of blocks is hardened steel. That layer as well up here is. Also, so apart from this little bit that overhangs the cockpit, the outlying block, full block, so that's just plastic, carbon composite, extra bit on the edge. But around the outside of this flat top pad is all hardened steel. There, yeah. And then there are some vertical bits as well. There's a bit there, and then there's a bit there, and then there, that joins the top to the bottom. And then, I'm sure you can guess, but there's also a bit that runs from one side to the other at the same point where it also goes up and down. The rest is mostly steel. There are some bits that are carbon composite. Those, as you saw just now, that bit along the edging of the flat top pads is also carbon composite. And the illuminated orientation panels are as well. This is all steel. Yeah. And all of the windows are just normal windows. They're not armoured or hardened or heavy or whatever. And of course all the doors are normal as well. They're not armoured either. Right, there we go. That'll be the end of that part. So the next part is going to be her resource gathering, production and storage. Now this is going to be a quick segment. Resource gathering, she has none. Production, she does come with a large and a small constructor, a food processor, a small arms and armour repair station. Storage, she has 2 8,000 SU ammo containers, so that's obviously just the controller with no extensions on either one. She has a 280,000 SU cargo container. That's the one that the extra thruster is needed to help lift. She also has a 104,000 cargo container next to the constructors roughly here on the inside as the output. There is also a single 8,000 SU water tank, air quotes, which is obviously just a cargo container. You can just see it through the window there. There is also a small cargo box, just one cargo box, and it's just a small. And there's 8 roughly miscellaneous storage items. So a closet, the kitchen counter, and there's a like a tank on top of the medic station there, and some temporary placeholders for extra fuel tanks that are, what do they call it? Fuel storage, power storage. It's one of the decorative thingies. That was the wrong one. That one, power storage. Yeah, so I was right. So there's a bunch of those as well that can be ripped out and replaced with fuel tanks. Oh, there's also, 2 armour lockers and a large fridge. Right, that'll be the end of that part. So the next part is going to be its interior layout and any remaining devices. Right, so as usual, we'll start with the any remaining devices that are on the outside, since it's where we are already. Landing gear, she has some. Headlights, she has some. 2. They are forward pointing and not diagonal. Speaking of lights, it comes of course fully flight regulation lighting compliant. So we'll start with the running lights that you can see dotted about that are slowly pulsing away. They let any observer know that the ship is powered. So as I keep saying, even I find those useful, because as I'm building up the construction area, I sometimes turn another ship that I've already built on so that I can see its registry displays and stuff, so that I can find one that is the closest size to the one I want for what I'm currently building, and then I can copy it and paste it on. But then sometimes I forget to turn that ship that I've just copied the LCD off. And as I've said in other videos, the running lights will catch my attention. And I'll be like, oh, I need to turn it off. Although, like I've said before, not that that really matters in survival. No, not that it matters in creative. Duh. Although it's just running the lights and stuff is still CPU intensive a little bit. So that's what the running lights are for, to let any observer know that the ship is powered. Then we come to the 2 flavours of orientation lights. The first flavour is these illuminated orientation panels that act as the ship's formation lights. And they are, of course, red on the port side, white on the stern side, and green on the starboard side. There's one, there's some more around. And there is also some yellow ones on the ventral side. There's maybe too many there, but that's only because there's not much of a distance between the cockpit and that, but whatever. So there we go, that's what those are for and where they are. Likewise, the navigation lights are also to let any observer know the orientation and direction of flight. You could argue that the illuminated orientation panels do that too, but whatever. So I will show you these turned on later on when we get to the signals and stuff, but for now I'm just going to point them out. So again, red on the port side, white on the stern, and green on the starboard, but there's no yellow ones on the bottom. Then we move on to the anti-collision lights, and again there are two flavours. There are the anti-collision beacons that come on, assuming of course you use the main propulsion device group toggle, will come on with the thrusters, and they will let any observer know that the thrusters are powered and the ship could therefore move at any moment. So they are red, light red, the red that's light. Okay, I'm not going to bother with that joke anymore. Well, maybe I'll bring it back every once in a while, but so they are light red on the top, whoops, and they are yellow on the bottom. And then there are the flight strobes. They are the bright white flashing lights you see on the wingtips of planes. And those are to allow visual acquisition from a distance. As I always say, that doesn't necessarily translate very well into the game, because in the game you can quite often see a ship before its lights, because the game doesn't necessarily render the lights at the same distance as ships. But it's realism in it. So those are the second flavour of anti-collision lights. Then we move on to the name and registry displays you can see dotted around. So we have a name display on the back and one on each side at the bottom. Obviously you can name the ship whatever you like, and it's the same case in the P menu as well, the control panel. It's usually obvious where the projector is for those, because generally speaking it'll be the only one around or it'll be the nearest one. Oh, and in case you care, ISV stands for interstellar vessel, which just means it's a vessel that can go interstellarly, so in between stellar objects, stars, so between stars, interstellarly. Then we have the registry displays. So here we have the main registry. Now obviously WM is Wimpomania, the line to which the ship belongs. This is the 18th ship in the line. And then here you would put the number of which yours is. If you can be bothered, you would check how many people have subscribed to the workshop and then add 1, and yours should be that number. Assuming, of course, that you are the last person to subscribe, and you add 1 because I have 1 and I'm not subscribed to it on the workshop, because the people who build ships don't need to subscribe, it's theirs. If you can't be bothered, of course, to do any of that, and no one's going to know or care if you can't, you can leave it as the number symbols, you can put it as 001, you can set it to your house number or your credit card PIN. Assuming, of course, you don't tell anyone that that's what it is, it'll be fine. Then we have the full registry over here, and as you can see, the full registry includes the main registry, but it also includes some extra info at the beginning. Wimpom Manufacturing is what the WMF stands for, the name of the manufacturer. Then we have EVP, which is simply this, but in a slightly convoluted order. So it's exploratory vessel, comma, personal. So it's a personal version of an exploratory vessel. So for one person, personal. And then as you can see, it's Discoverer class. And again, you can change the number symbols if you want, or leave them if you don't want. Anything else on the outside? Yeah, we'll start with this. So, oh, actually, I shouldn't come out of God mode because it can't actually jump this high. So the ramp and some of the lights here, including the spotlight on either side and the ones that light up the slope as well, are all on a motion sensor. You probably saw it earlier. It's that one there. That brings us up onto the flat top pads where we have, and I'll cover this again in the upgrading bit, but a place for a repair device block pad block. The lights up here are obviously motion sensor controlled as well. That one there covers this pad. This little connection also has its own sensor and lights. Door into the interior there, which we'll take in a minute. The lights here are obviously the same as that pad because it's basically just a copy and paste of that, except without the gap in the middle. So lights, motion sensor there, and then we have a little Jack, I'm flying point here above the cockpit. I just thought it was kind of cool to have a bit like if you wanted to look at something through a sniper scope. Although you could do it from the cockpit, it would be nice to do it from outside the ship as well. So that's one of the reasons I gave a little pointy bit above the cockpit there. Right, let's go inside, down the elevator and into the foyer lock. And obviously the foyer lock is also where the outdoor ramps go to two. As you can see, an O2 station, an armor locker on each side. There's a medic station for healing and respawning with a pretend med gel thing there. Here is a spot for a teleporter with a sensor already installed. Most of the O2 tanks are in the connector here. This one happens to be a foyer lock connector, but all of the connectors will be basically like this. And also the ammo is in here. And one of the main reasons they are in the connector bit is because the connector bit is where the turrets attach to, for the most part. Right, let's go back. Orange door, engineering, manual door. You need to open it manually. In we come. So here we have engineering with the reactors there. So there's 3 small generators there and the same on the other side. We have access into the nacelles here. One thing I forgot to do, and I'm not all that fussed really, I can't be bothered to fix it, but there's no O2 in here. Oh, it's because we're in a breathable atmosphere, isn't it? Somehow the atmosphere from outside can get in here, but anything in here can't get out. But whatever. So yeah, make sure you got your helmet on if you need to go in there for any reason. So there's the fuel, there's those power storage things that I said were just placeholders for more fuel. Right, couple of consoles, and I'll come back to those in the upgrading bit because they are placeholders too. Moving forward, we come to the... Oh, that was the engineering segment, by the way. Although I did say this was engineering, but I didn't specify that this was a segment. You may have guessed that we were in a segment, but there you go. This is now the survival segment, where we have the large and the small constructor, the small arms and armor repair station, and here is the 104 KSU cargo. Here we have the 280K. Then we have some living space, so we have a bit of a bedroom, bathroom type place here. Bed, closet, shower, toilet through that door. That door is manual. We have, oh, there's the water tank. Pretend make-believe. I can probably turn my headlight off. Oh, there are switches on the ceiling. One does the orange light for the room. The other one does some yellow spotlights for the ablutions. And the window shutters are manual. Now, because of the way the game works, these will come closed when you spawn it in. Now, I've set up the signals on these so that the bottom door controls the top door. So if you do the top door, it'll only that will be the only one that opens. I'm trying to talk quickly because I'm noticing I'm running out of time. So there you go. I'm sure you got the idea of that, right? Okay. We have the kitchen and dining over here. fridge with the food processor. There's the small cargo box. Here we have what I consider to be the long-range communications panel and a bench to sit and look out the window. Then we move forward into the cockpit. This door is automatic. I should have said that one over there and that one there is as well. Generally speaking, if I don't say it's manual, it'll be automatic. So here we have those, so there's the equipment ring, there's the thruster ring, in case you were curious, and then this is basically the back wall of the cockpit module that slaps on the front. As you can see, very equipment sparse in here, vent and a sensor with a couple of lights, there's the projectors. So I was struggling to think what would go in the cockpit, so I thought it would be best to leave it basically empty so that when the user finds a need to put something in here, they can, rather than forcing them to deal with whatever I've put in, is the idea. And then of course the cockpit seat with its heads-up displays. So over here is the lift performance that shows you how much you can lift in different gravities and what the power save does. And over here is the device groups and signals shortcuts, and I'm going to use this to transition on to the next segment, which will be I did it, segment instead of part, which will be its shortcuts and signals. Right, there aren't too many in this ship, to be fair. So doing the device groups first as usual, and as usual the top one is main propulsion. That will of course turn on, as I said earlier, the default thrusters, so not the max lift, and it'll turn on the anti-collision beacons, yellow on the bottom, light red on the top. The next one down of course is the max lift, and that will, as I said earlier, turn on this off-centered one and the extra ones on the nacelles. We have some blank, as usual with my ships. I tend to keep, although there are some exceptions, I tend to keep signals and stuff in the same locations for each ship, so that means that sometimes some are empty. So we go down to production and repair. Now that will turn on and off these two things. Although it's set to the device group that also contains that and that. Oh yeah, it will turn that on and off. Yeah, that's an on and offy thing, but this one isn't, is it? No, that's not an on and offy. So there's the production repair device group shortcut. There we go. Duh. But obviously one of the things in there doesn't turn on and off, but whatever. Okay, next one down was the artificial gravity. Oh yeah, I forgot about those. Talk about them now, might as well. Should have done it in the interior layout bit. There's an extra small one there that is a part of the equipment ring. Also as part of the equipment ring is some more O2, the detector, and the 4 Wi-Fi. 4 as in forward. I forgot to, although I did show where it was, I just didn't mention it earlier because I was talking about armor around the core, but there is the wireless connector for the stern. So, artificial gravity, hang on, I didn't show the artificial gravity, the other one. So there, it's in the connector that is the foyer lock, is where the other one is. And that's a small rather than an extra small. It's sat on top of the thin ventilator there. Speaking of ventilators, the next one down is air vents. In case this is anyone's first tour of mine you've seen, I will cover this, but if in case it's not, I will try to do it as fast as I can. So if we have a look at power left and we turn oxygen off, the power left doesn't change, because although the ventilators are no longer blowing air into the ship, the ventilator blocks themselves are still powered. So if we watch that and turn air vents off, you'll see the power left does go up. So you can save some fuel in a breathable atmosphere. Thank you. Moving on then to the signals column, and we have the power save. So, the LCD up here does tell you what it does, but it basically turns off all of the sensors and levers to save some power, except for the one that controls this ramp, unless I have made a mistake. I have not made a mistake. Good. So I'll leave that one on. So if you've left power save on and you're driving around on the planet, you can still get back up on top in a HV even with power save on. It'll also turn off all of the LCDs. That includes the heads-up displays in the cockpit and all of the names and registries on the outside of the ship. And it'll turn off the Wi-Fi's. Why am I on that screen? Next we have weapons. I'm sure you can guess what that does, and it only does those two because that's all that's on the ship. Next one's empty. Then we have some of the flight regulation lighting. We have the nav lights, which, as I said earlier, are red on the port, white on the stern, and green on the starboard. And the flight strobes, strobing away flashy with the white colour. Next one, the next one that isn't empty down is headlights. Now, as I keep saying in my tours, but just in case, again, this is your first of mine you've seen, I obviously know that you can turn the lights on and off from in the cockpit seat with the keyboard shortcut, which for me is L for Lima, and I'm sure that is the default. But if you turn them on, get out of your cockpit seat, you're doing stuff in the ship, then you come outside and notice that you've left them on, I didn't want you to have to go all the way back into the cockpit again to turn them off. So I give you a switch to do it. And finally is close hatches. Doesn't do much on this ship, to be fair. So it's the nacelle access hatches. If you accidentally leave one open, or both, you can flick that switch and it will close them. And of course it'll only close them, it won't open them again. Okie dokie, that's the end of that part of the video. So the next part is going to be its CPU and upgrading. Right, just in case you are skipping around in the video, the core is in the back underneath the slope for HVs and obviously behind the warp drive. The CPU extender is there, letting you know that this is a tier 2 CPU ship. The usage is just under 441,000 of the 500,000 you are allowed, so there's still a bit of room to play with there. As for upgrading, well, as I showed you earlier with the access into the nacelles, there is plenty of space in here to add extra stuff. I'm not quite sure what you'd want to put in here, if anything, because obviously thrusters can draw fire, so anything in here is at risk, but, you know, whatever. You can if you want to. As I said, these are placeholders for more fuel tanks. You might be able to guess that these blocks are intended to be taken away and extra CPU extenders can be put in. In fact, there's enough space there to be a tier 4 if you need it. This console here is obviously the same model that they used for the field repair station that I now can't find. There it is. So the idea is that you take that away and replace it with the field repair station. Likewise, once you've got the repair device block bay pad there, you would put the control console there. Anything else in here? Oh yes, I would recommend replacing the small generators, all 6 of them, with 4 large tier 1s for more power. Obviously there's that teleporter slot in the foyer lock in here. Obviously you can upgrade the constructor to an advanced if you want. And again, there's space in here to put... so I didn't want to put another O2 station and another armor locker in here if you don't need it. If you want it, if you do need it, you're going to have to put one in yourself. Obviously, you can upgrade some of the thrusters. Now, some you can't because there isn't space, unless you don't mind putting a medium here and having the thruster nozzle cone sticking out from the hull. Maybe you don't mind that, and so therefore knock yourself out. In fact, on some of the other ones that at the moment I haven't built, but the kit is up there, like I said, I'll show you that in a bit. But I will be having the thruster nozzle, oh my god, sticking out here on some of them. And then, of course, extra weapons. So it only comes very lightly armed, but by all means you can strap on extra weapons to the hull wherever you can see room. I mean, you could certainly get another sentry, even a retractable one on each side there and there to protect your aft end. You might be able to squeeze an extra one pointing forward there and there. I'm sure you can tell you could, even if you wanted to, put two. It's entirely up to you. There aren't many places where you could squeeze a full-size turret on. Maybe on the bottom, if you didn't mind it going through the ground when you land. You may have even noticed up here, if you remove these railings, that's a pretty nice spot for a full-size turret, if you want to. It wouldn't be retractable unless you don't care about how it looks, but, you know. As I've explained in other videos, the lore, L-O-R-E, of my ship builds is that there is a law, L-A-W, that says that civilian craft can't have their weapons on display unless, of course, they're SVs, in which case the developers of the game haven't given us retractable turrets for SVs in their infinite wisdom, and so therefore civilian vessels must have their weapons on display. Moan. So that only applies to, well, probably, as I've mentioned in a previous video, the Milky Way galaxy and the manufacturers. So, as I said, the game is set in the Andromeda galaxy, probably because they didn't want to have the headache of explaining where Earth is and trying to put in an Earth that's realistic. They decided, oops, we've gone to Andromeda for the basis of the story of the game. I would suggest that maybe the laws of humanity don't apply out there. You might argue that they still do to humans, but the law enforcement, as far as I understand, haven't come with us. It's a fleet of explorers has gotten lost. And there might not be any law enforcement, so therefore civilians can sort of get away with strapping non-retractable turrets onto the hull of their ships in a galaxy far, far away, as it were. So there's that. Anything else in terms of upgrading? I think I've covered it all, really. Yes, I think I have. So thrusters, you can put stuff in the nacelles. Okie dokie. That'll be the end of that part of the video. So the next and last part is going to be any other info. Okay, so with this ship, in case you have seen other tours of mine, I haven't included a choice of primary colours for this. So I don't need to cover that, although I technically just did. However, speaking of paints, I do of course have my damage texture. So in case you care, thank you. I pressed that button a couple of times in case you were wondering why I was saying that. That colour and that texture is what I use to be my damage texture. I paint the entire ship that, and then, although technically I didn't with this, I painted everything else first and then did the damage texture last, but whatever. So that to me looks like smouldering metal, which in my opinion looks more like damage than this does, because those textures are used elsewhere in the ship, and although you might be able to tell there's a block missing, it still doesn't look like damage to me, in my opinion. So that's why I do that. Naming convention of my Wimpomania ships. So because I consider myself to be a noob at building, noob N-O-O-B, all of my Wimpomania ships are named either synonyms of newbie, N-E-W-B-I-E, someone who is new at something, or words that mean someone who is first at something. For example, discoverer, or freshman, or forerunner, or stuff, beginner and things. So there we go. That's why I name the ships the way I do. I'm going to actually publish now, and then we'll go up into the orbit, air quotes, and have a look at the kit. Nearly pressed the wrong buttons. So I will of course leave it private so I can do the description and the screenshots and stuff. There we go. Oh, nearly forgot the blinkies. In case you don't like my blinkies, I will tell you how to deal with them. So the flight strobes, and although they don't blink, the nav lights are very easy. You just don't turn them on because they are manual only. The running lights that are always running, they are on automatically. There they are. There's one. There's another one on the bottom there. They're basically one on each corner, all 8 corners, as it were. So, if you don't like those pulsing away, you scroll to the bottom of my devices and you're looking for regulation lights. The ones in particular is running lights. They are active. Deactivate the group. That's it. They are now off. And then for the anti-collision beacons, now if you are using this thruster switch here, of course it doesn't matter because that won't turn the lights on and off. But if you're using this one so that you don't waste fuel with the max lift thrusters on all of the time, and you don't like the anti-collision beacons, so again, scroll to the bottom, regulation lights, anti-collision. If the group is active, deactivate the group, and then remove the shortcut here. And then that's it. That's all you need to do. Okie dokie, let's go up and have a look at the kit then. I know you're all desperate and dying to look at it. Okay, here is the kit. I was just making sure my headlight was on, my torch. So, this is the kit I'm using to build these segment ships. Wow, lag today. So I start with, actually, let's get it out, and this ship. So I'm starting with just the stern. Here, which is the engineering segment and the slope up, but with no nacelles attached, and that is obviously the same as this bit here. And then I decide which of the segments and connectors need to be attached. So here are the connectors, so you would have one on front of the engineering segment. Here we have a habitation connector with a bed and a bathroom and a place to sit and eat. Here is a cargo connector with a cargo container, 2 actually, sorry. Oh, and a ammo box. Oh, and as you can probably tell, they all have a gravity generator and basically the same O2. There are some differences. Have I kept... Yeah, the O2 and the gravity generator is the same there. There is one, I think, and I can't remember which one. Here is a production connector, large constructor, small constructor, the small arms and armor repair, a cargo container and a box. This one over here is the medical connector, so we have the medical devices, a patient bed and a shower and a toilet for the patient to use, again with the th and the th. Oh, I guess they are all the same with the O2 tanks. I have a memory of changing one. Obviously, I'd scrapped it and went back to this, but whatever. And this, of course, is the foyer lock that is part of the Discoverer. And then we have the other segments. We'll come back to that in a minute. So we have a habitation segment, which is similar to the survival segment, that we saw in the Discoverer, except it's all about living. So we have more of a lounge, we have more of a kitchen diner, and there are 2 bedrooms with the shower sink setup here. So this, whatever ship this would be on, would be 4-person. Okay, then we have the gunship segment. That's going to be the next ship, actually, the gunship, because it's going to be 3 segments. So we have a shield generator, a large ammo box, armor box. Oh, and a couple of additional generators to help with the power needs of that shield generator. So that's in that segment. Here we have, oh, this is the survival segment. I can tell by the cargo in there. So this is the one on the Discoverer. Yes, this one next. Cargo segment. So it's just basically 4 320k. Yes. It's 4 320k cargo containers. And actually the other extensions that go on top of that are up here in what goes on top of the segments. So you may have noticed that they don't have a built-in pad on top like this one does, and that's because they won't all have a built-in pad. This pad obviously has some well, I will put ramps on the sides of the segment that will allow HVs to drive up onto it from the sides rather than just from the back, is the idea. Then we have this for just a normal segment that I don't want a pad on top of, and then this is the top of a cargo segment. And then the last one is a garage bay segment for internal storage of HVs with some doors and some ramps and some lights. And cockpits. Oh, no, hang on. Let's show you this. So here is the equipment ring I mentioned earlier. The astute among you will notice that the equipment ring here also has some mining lasers on it. Those are mining lasers, not pew-pew lasers. And they will obviously go on to the miner, the fledgling. And here is the thruster ring as it appeared on the Discoverer. And then we have the cockpits. So I've made 4, and I'm quite proud of my cockpits. So this is the one that is on the Discoverer, and it's built in the same style as the starter class. So these ships I'm going to name now were all other builds of mine, by the way. So the starter class is mine. Also the probationer down there. So yeah, the starter class and the probationer class down there, they both have a similar style cockpit, and it's the ones that this one is based on. And then we have, oh, and that's a 1-person cockpit that is only, other than that back wall, is 3 blocks long. Although technically 2, because you can't put anything in these blocks because it's windows. Unless, and I have done with others, you move the window to the block outside. So here is a 2-person cockpit. And this cockpit is based on the same cockpit as the Initiate and the Rookie tank. And that Pathfinder class there. In fact, it's closer to that Pathfinder class, but because it has the same retractable roof. So that's that. And then we have this cockpit, which is a 4-person cockpit, and it is based upon the same style as the Beginner and the Beginner and the Recruit down there, and the... Oh, it begins with an I. Why can I not remember? It's a giant innovator. There we go. So it's a similar cockpit to those. And then finally, we have the gunship cockpit, which again is 4-person. Oh, I should have mentioned as well, which is why I told you how long that one is. Each cockpit, when it increases in the number of people, also increases by 1 block in length. And then this cockpit is, like I said, the gunship cockpit. Also 4 people. The other 2, oh shit, are down there. Sacrifices had to be made in aesthetics for the good of functionality. I wanted this cockpit to have minigun turrets. So, unfortunately, they are visible from the inside. But never mind. And that cockpit is in the same style as the Forerunner class and the Apprentice, there we go, and the Plebe. So it's the same style as those. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with those. And here we have the arms. As you can tell, there's a version with a thruster, a lift thruster, and a version without. The Discoverer that is down on the planet had without, because they were so close to the thrusters. Oh, part of the story of this kit, by the way, and actually one of the good things about building a small, simple 2-segment ship as the first one is that it allowed me to iron out bugs with the kit. One of the bugs was that these arms were originally only 3 blocks long, so that was actually there, and it didn't go up in a diagonal. It was a straight line, so that pod was there, which meant that it blocked the reverse thrusters, so that it was basically sat here. So I had to change the shape of it, but never mind. Oh, and of course we have some blank ones, empty, that I can use to build something else if I need to. Of course I used these to build all of those. Anything else? So there's the rings, there's the arms. Oh, the nacelles. So there's the small nacelle that's on the Discoverer. We then have a it's not quite double length, it's actually more, but it's 2. So the small thruster nacelles are the same length as a segment. These double length, air quote, nacelles are actually 2 segments and the connector in between them in length. And then we have a double long, double wide thruster nacelle that is going to go on, on the biggest one of the segment ships. There we go. I think, I was going to ask, and I'm glad I remembered because I was just about to end the video, if anyone wants this ship kit, because I'm not planning to release it. And the reason I'm not planning to release it is because I don't want to force anybody to have to go around putting all of the devices into my custom groups. And I don't know how well it would work if you auto-grouped. But if you're willing to press that auto-group button and then deal with whatever that fucks up here, by all means let me know and I will release it to the workshop. But I wasn't planning on it. But I'm happy to do it if anyone would benefit from it. Righto then, so that'll be the end of the video. Thank you very much for taking an interest in the Discoverer class. I hope you get some use out of it. What the fuck is that? Is that even there? It's got big number 1 on it. I'm going to have to review the footage and see if that was there all along, because I don't think it was. I seem to have spotted that very quickly now, to have not noticed it before. Righto, so as I was saying, outro, thank you very much for watching. Like I said, I hope you get some use out of it, and hopefully I will see you in another video for a different build. So thank you again, and goodbye.